أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. One of the traditions, hadith, that both Ahl Sunnah and Shia narrate and is in their books is a very famous hadith that I'm sure you've heard about. إن الله عز وجل ليغضب لغضب فاطمة. That Allah becomes upset, angered with the anger of Sayyida Fatema alayhi salam. ويرضى لرضاها. And he becomes content, satisfied with the satisfaction of Sayyida Fatema. When we look at this hadith, this is a tradition that needs a lot of analysis, because what does it mean that Allah is content with who Sayyida Fatema is content with? That Allah is angered, and what does even angry mean? With who Sayyida Fatema is angered with. We can understand it this way, that man can reach such a position, humans can reach such a position, that their irada and their will becomes the will of Allah. Whatever they desire is connected and linked with the will of Allah. Everything they want is ilahi. Everything they want is for God. So therefore, if they are happy and content and kind to someone, it is because of who? Because of Allah. And if they are upset and angered, it's not because of their personal issue that they have or their own. We'll talk about what is the definition of angry mean. It's not because of a personal issue. It is because of religion, deen. We see throughout the Quran, there were prophets who had ghadab, who were angered. But why were they angry? Was it because of a personal issue? No, it was because of deen, because of religion. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he returns from the meeting with Allah and he speaks to Allah and he sees his qawm, his people, are worshipping the calf again, he becomes angry. Ghadban, he becomes angry. Is this ghadab because of himself or because of Allah? So therefore we have to understand these two attributes. That is, Sayyida Fatema alayhi salam is satisfied with us, Allah will be satisfied. It's linked. Because a person can reach such a high position that their will is nothing but divine. We usually, our will is nafsani. A lot of times it's mixed with the shaitani sometimes, or nafsani, the lower desires. A lot of times when we eat food, when we say something, it's because of our desires. I want to do it. It is not just exactly because of Allah. And when we choose to speak, it is not as if I think about what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say the thing that Allah is going to be most pleased with. But an infallible person, their harakat, their sakanat, their saying, their inaction, action, all of this is for Allah. So therefore we look at Raghib Isfahani, who is a person of language, and he has a book which is very popular, Mufradat al-Raghib, and he defines words. How does he define the word ghadab? Because we have in the Quran, in chapter 20:81, that after the blessings of Bani Israel, Allah has blessed them, saved them, then he mentions to them, Kulu min tayyibat ma razaqnakum. Eat, consume from whatever your Lord wants. Bani Israel, consume, we've saved you. But eat from the good things that we have provided. وَلَا تَتْقَوْا فِي. But don't transgress, but do not oppress others. Eat, we've given you ni'mah. Eat, consume, but don't oppress. Then it says, Quran, فَيَحِلَّ عَلَيْكُمْ غَضَبِي. Lest my anger should descend upon you. So what is this verse? It says to Bani Israel, have from the rizq of Allah, do not transgress, but if you transgress, my ghadab, my anger of Allah will be upon you. Quran and then continues, وَمَنْ يَحْلِلْ عَلَيْهِ غَضَبِي فَقَدْ هَوَى. And whoever my anger descends upon has certainly fallen, has fallen. So the anger of Allah, what does it mean? Because Raghib Isfahani says when a person becomes angry, I don't know, have you ever become angry? Or how many times did you become angry today? It's a natural human station. We see that probably parents, a little bit more than those that are not parents, for example, they have ghadab, they have anger. Or maybe sometimes the children more than others. About ghadab, this refers to stirring of the blood in the heart for the purpose of seeking revenge, for example. Stirring of the blood in the heart. That's ghadab. So how does that work? How can Allah be angry? He's not a human. Can we do tafsir of this in a humanistic way? The ghadab of Allah. Because it says ghadab. And ghadab means anger. So how can we understand it? Raghab then says, but what is meant by divine anger is the act of revenge. Or Imam Baghar alayhi salam, maybe I think this is much better. Imam Baghar alayhi salam says, al-ghadab is divine punishment. Divine punishment. Because Allah doesn't have emotions. Emotions belongs to a person like that is makhluk. Because if a person has emotions, he's not stable. He's up and down, for example. One day he's mad, one day he's sad, one day he's angry. If Allah had emotions, one day this country would be annihilated, one day that village would be annihilated that'd be emotional. But Allah doesn't have emotions, so therefore every attribute of Allah, we have to interpret it as separate than humanistic attributes. Separate than humanistic attributes. So therefore we see these two things are linked. Ghadab and rida. Contentment of Sayyida Fatema is matched with ghadab, anger. Let's talk about both of these aspects of her life. Who did she have rida? Who was she content with? Who did she show compassion to? And we look throughout her life that everyone she was in contact with, whoever it was, if they're poor, if they're a person asking questions, if it was, for example, the neighbor, if it was her mother, her father, if it was her husband, her children, all of these she was content with. She was also kind to, very compassionate to. I'm going to give you instances of the mercy of Sayyida Fatema, the rida of Sayyida Fatema, the act of benevolence of Sayyida Fatema alayhi salam, which is in reality nothing but the benevolence of Allah. Let's start. Let's put a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. She was very kind to her mother. She was very saddened when her mother passed away. So much so that the angels, for example, came and gave her condolences when she loses Lady Khadija. We see that with her children, she was very compassionate. Having Imam Hassan go to the sermons and speech of Rasulullah and to have him come back and tell me, what did Rasulullah teach? So that he can make sure, for example, he can benefit from Rasulullah. Or when it comes to the nights of Qadr and destiny, she would wake them up, for example, so that the children are worshipping Allah on this night. This is compassion, that is caring, that is the rida and contentment of someone. We look at her father, that there is a title, and I want you to think about it, and it's not very clear for us exactly, but maybe you can come with your own ideas, with your research, and present it for me. One of the rahmah and mercy that she had and that contentment she showed was with Rasulullah. So much so that her technonym or title became what? What was her? Umma Abiha. Her title became Ummu Abiha. What does Ummu Abiha mean? Mother of her father. But how does that work? How is she a mother of the father? And there are 3 or 4 possibilities. Some of the ulama, they went through, what is Umma Abiha? I'm sure that many times in books you read about Sayyida Fatema, Umma Abiha. Sayyida Fatema, Umma Abiha. What does it mean? What are we trying to get at? One possibility of Umma Abiha, some of the ulama says that Rasulullah felt indebted to her. Felt indebted. Are you indebted to your parents, to your mother, to your father, for example? They gave you existence, they gave you benefit, They cared for you, right? So when someone cares for you, especially after Lady Khadija has passed away, for example, when someone cares for you, you are indebted to them. So Abiha, one definition of this can mean that Sayyida Fatima, that Rasulullah is indebted to her for kindness, for example, for other things. Two, we see that Rasulullah, that love that you have and respect Abiha, that Rasulullah, just as how someone would respect their mother, and before they would travel, he would go, for example, and see her before he would travel. When she would come to the majlis, he would kiss her, respect her. In that same way, as he respect the mother, Sayyida Fatima was respected in this way. And therefore, after visiting, coming back from journey, he would respect her, so she is Abiha. A third meaning is means origin, the roots. And when you look at the position of Sayyida Fatima alayhi salam, you see that she is the root and foundation of the tree of prophethood, and connects this with wilayat, which is Amir al-Mu'mineen, through her children and progeny, through Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and all the imams that will be descendants of Sayyida Fatima alayhi salam. Therefore, she's Abiha, meaning she's the That foundation of Risalat will be continued, will be connected to Wilayat and authority of the Ahlul Bayt through her. She is the connector of this. She is Abiha. So others say that the wives of the Prophet were known as what? What was their titles? The Mu'mineen. So the mother of the believers. The wives of the prophets are mothers of the believers. You cannot marry them, right? So Sayyida Fatima was Abiha. If they are Mu'mineen, if they are the mother of the believers, she is Abiha. She is the mother of her father, meaning that they are just, for example, they are the mother of the believers. But the status of her is higher because they're the mother of the believers, but she's the mother of Rasulullah in this Abiha. She's the mother of Rasulullah. Why? Because Sayyida Fatima is Batul. Batul, in one of the definitions, means she's distinguished, she's separated from any other lady. Nobody can compare with her. Nobody can compare with her. It's very interesting that one of the Sunni Mufassirin, Alusi is Sunni, and he is Sayyid too, but he hates Shias. He's Sayyid and he hates Shias. In his tafsir, in his works, he mentions about Surah Al-Insan. Surah Al-Insan is the surah that talks about the it'am of Lady Fatima alayhi salam, that talks about the fact that Ahlul Bayt gave their food to fasting, the miskin, yatim, asir. These three groups of people, they gave their food. He says, he's Sunni, he says the fact that this surah is about Sayyida Fatima, he calls it the Surah of Fatima. The Surah Insan, he says he's Sunni. He doesn't like Shia, but he says this is the Surah of Sayyida Fatima. And because of respect of her, there's no mention of Huris in this verse. Because she is Insiyatul Hawra. Therefore, you cannot compare anyone to her. This is what he's saying. He's a Sunni Mufassir of the maqam of Sayyida Fatima. So therefore, she is Abiha. If they're Al-Mu'mineen, she's Abiha. So therefore, regardless, when we say Abiha, one aspect we said is how much she cared for Rasulullah after the battle of Uhud, after the battle of Khandaq, giving her food, for example, to Rasulullah, and caring for him. The second is how she cared for her husband, how respect she gave to her husband. Imam Ali alayhi salam is at the highest stations of Iman. From the people that entered this world, Rasulullah was higher than Imam Ali, but after Rasulullah is Imam Ali alayhi salam. And it would say the Fatima is the Kuf, they're equal to each other, sufficient to each other. Now, I want you to think about this, that what type of position must say the Fatima and how much help and compassion must she have showed to Imam Ali, that somebody can help Imam Ali in the obedience of Allah. How can we help Imam Ali in ta'atullah? How can I help him obey Allah? But Imam Ali says about her, in the way that she was with Imam Ali alayhi salam, that ni'mal aun ala ta'atillah. She is the best helper in the obedience of Allah. She was the helper of Imam Ali in the obedience of Allah. So this is compassion. This is rifq. This is lot of Sayyida Fatima to her husband. How about to the neighbors? Her compassion and lot and rida and contentment to the neighbors. Al-dar, ajar, thumma dar. The neighbor, then my house. Imam Hassan alayhi saw Sayyida Fatima praying and praying for the neighbor. How about us? He says, no, the neighbor first, then us. The neighbor first, then us. Her lutf and rida to the sinners. This is another of the great mercy of Sayyida Fatima. During the time when she was getting married, there's a tradition. She was getting married, and the daughters of the people marry with money, with mahr. She wanted her mahr and dowry in this tradition to be something special. And she asks, it says, I ask you to return this mahr, return it, and to pray to Allah that He makes my dowry the intercession. Read the Arabic for you. وَتَدْعُ اللَّهَ أَنْ يَجْعَلَ مَهْرِي الشَّفَاءَ فِي أُصَّاتِ أُمَّتِكَ. I ask Allah, this mahr that I have, or maybe you can at least say a portion of it, maybe because we have other traditions that she did have a mahr. It was under 2 gold coins, how we calculate it today, and it's recommended for a lady when she is married not to have a mahr or dowry higher than Sayyida Fatima. Just recommended. You can do it if you want, it's fine, and the ladies can have it if they want to. But it's recommended not higher than, maybe you can calculate as, 2 gold coins, something like that, or 1 or 2 gold coins, lower than that. But anyways, this part of the mahr, impossible, maybe that was it, and this was it. The dowry was forgiveness and shafa'at and intercession of the sinners. Not necessarily intercession of those who were perfect, were A students, for example. Those who were the sinners. And therefore, Jibreel comes in this hadith and brings a cloth. And this cloth says, جَعَلَ اللَّهُ مَهْرَ فَاطِمَةَ الزَّهْرَاء شَفَاءَةَ الْمُذْنِبِينَ مِنْ أُمَّةِ أَبِيهَا. Allah has granted the mahr of Sayyida Fatima, the shafa'at intercession of the sinners of the ummah of Rasulullah, ummat abiha. And they say that she was buried with this. She asked, and that she was buried with this. This is one of the other traditions that we come across, that some of our ulama say, when we come across, we see that maybe we can say that her shafa'at outweighs other shafa'ats. Her intercession outweighs other intercessions. Maybe. Now we have another case that when she was passing away, so during her marriage, she was thinking of the sinners, thinking of us when she was getting married. That is a mother. That is what a mother does. During her passing away in martyrdom, again she was thinking of us. The tradition has Asma bint Umays comes to her and sees the prayer that she has. إلهي وسيدي أسألك بالذين اصطفيتهم وبكاء. It says ولدي, but I think it should be ولدي في مفارقتي. I ask you, Allah, because of who you have chosen, for example, those you have chosen for Rasalat, for example, or those you have chosen, and the tears of my sons when I will be separate. The tear, how much Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein will cry. She asked specifically because of these tears of Hassan and Hussein, I ask you something. It's very good to promise, to swear Allah by things. These holy tears of Hassan and Hussein, I ask you this. أن تغفر لي لعصاة شيعتي. Forgive the sins of the Shia, of the sinning Shia, وَشِيعَةَ ذُرِّيَّتِي, and my followers and the followers of my progeny. So therefore we see the rahmah and lutf, and we see the compassion and contentment of Sayyida Fatima alayhi salam. Now, I don't know if you want to, I think this section is fine. I had a story for you, but it seems, because this is halfway done, maybe I'll say the story later on for you. Or if you want to hear it, I can say it to you later on. That is one section of the rida and contentment. Inshallah, Sayyida Fatima is radi with us. She is has content with us. But then we continue, this part is the ghadab, anger, this emotion. As humans, we have this emotion. Is anger always bad? Is anger sometimes good? In books of akhlaq, it talks about anger. What does it cause? When you become angry, very angry, what happens to you inside of you? What positive? What something positive? Become courageous. You become courageous. Maybe there's 10 people, they want to fight with you. You become angry, you fight against them. But if you are not angry, you're not going to make such a stupid mistake, for example, and fight 10 people. But now you're angry, you say, I'll take 10, all 10 of them. I become super courageous, for example. You think you're like the toughest guy in UFC or something, suddenly your anger makes you like that. But maybe you'll get strength, I don't know. Maybe you become super strong. Some people become super strong with anger. It's a defense mechanism we have. Defense mechanism. Anger sometimes is good. There's positive anger and there's negative anger. Most cases of anger that we have is negative because we lose it. We get angry. We can't control. Imam Qadhim alayhi salam is known as Kadhmul Ghayth, for example. He would control his anger, right? A very difficult thing that we have to do. Some are giving the example of anger like fire. If you see fire, what would you do? One of the lecturers was saying fire is like anger. What do you do when there's fire? You go for water. If there's not water, you go for dirt. If there's not dirt, you run away. When you run away, you yell for help. It says anger the same way. When you're angry, go for water, get wudu. There's traditions. Go and get wudu. Get wudu again, you become calm. 2, when you become angry, you look for dirt. Do sujood. Sujood, your anger. Some of these are, from the traditions. 3, you can yell, or for example, Allah, give some dhikr. That we're saying. And the 4th is when you become angry, you leave. You run away. Or the 3rd, you run away. You separate yourself. And this is in tradition. When you're angry, you go. Change. You don't have to be here right now. Go to another room. And when you're calm, you come back. So this is negative anger, but tonight we want to talk about this, the ghadab that she had. Was it positive anger or negative anger? Obviously it was positive anger. Who was she angry with? When should we be angry with? When we look at her khutbah, she yells. Or, in the speech we're understanding, she is very strong and passionate in the way that she talks to these people. Ayatollah Safi Golpaigani says this. It's a very interesting thing. He's a manager, Allah Yarhamu, Allah have mercy on him and elevate his status. He says this, that if anyone else said these things that Sayyida Fatema said, they would have executed them right there. They would have executed them right there. But because she's the daughter of Rasulullah, they couldn't at that time. They did attack the house of Imam Ali. But when she calls them hypocrites, for example, or when she calls them, look at the statements in Khutbah Fadaki in front of everyone, this newly established government, she talks to them directly and mentions that, let's recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala about Fadak, that thus usurp it, fasten it firmly, for it is weak and feeble, while its shame and disgrace will always remain over you. The shame and disgrace will always remain over you. The sign of the rage of the Supreme God, Allah, has been cast upon it, and it will be an everlasting disgrace upon you, and it will lead you to the fire of Allah. This will lead you to the fire of Allah. Who else could say this to them? Who else? Which will engulf the heart or other parts. Rather, you hasten to take the reins into your hands. After having acquired it, you started to ignite the fire of mutiny, and you became engrossed in inciting the fire. You responded to the call of Satan. You have responded to the call of Satan. Or other parts, when she defends Imam Ali, وَمَا الَّذِي, this is another speech, وَمَا الَّذِي نَقِمُ مِنْ أَبِي الْحَسَنِ, what do you deny from Abul Hasan, Imam Ali? نَقَمُ مِنْهُ وَاللَّهِ نَكِيرَ سَيْفِهِ وَقِلَّةِ مُبَالَاتِهِ بِحَتْفِهِ وَشِدَّةِ وَتَأْتِهِ. Do you deny the beating of his sword, his carelessness about death, his deadly assaults, his anger for the sake of Allah? Is this what you deny? So sometimes we understand that we have to become angry. There are times that we have to speak out. What are those times? Sayyida Fatema has qadab. In Sahih Bukhari, she had, for wajadat Fatima, she became angry with Abu Bakr. It mentions in Sahih Bukhari, she became angry. and she didn't speak to him hatta tuwafiyat. So there are times when a person has to be angry, but this is angry for Allah. One case of that is when we look at sin. When we see sin all around us, a person should become angry. When you see munkar, when you see sin, and you don't see haya, any modesty, a believer should be angry. At least if they can say something, if they cannot say something, at least in the heart, in themselves, they don't like this sin. What is going on? I don't like it. What is the problem if you don't mind, you're neutral about it? Slowly and slowly, that sin will be okay. You won't become angry. You say, oh, that's not that bad. And maybe, God forbid, your emotions take you, and God forbid, you will do the same thing. But when you are angry, that is your first line of defense. You don't like it. Or and when someone is sinning publicly, you speak against it. The second case, that when a person should defend the truth, when something is wrong, when there is oppression happening, a person should speak out, should have ghadab, anger. Why are you doing this? Do you think honestly, if we, alhamdulillah, so many people spoke out against the genocide in Gaza, do you think that the fact that the ICC, International Criminal Court, would pass a ruling if everyone in the world was quiet? And just like all the other genocides that took place and nobody said anything and just let it happen, do you think that they would give a ruling? Or do you think that because people spoke out and there was action, that they were forced to have this statement? So therefore, it's because of people saying, because if you do not say something, they will do it more. So therefore, these are cases where you show your anger. There's demonstrations, protests, boycotts, and others. They show their, how can you kill these children? They say every 30 minutes, if you count from the beginning to now, every 30 minutes, one child died in Gaza. Every 30. The speech so far has been 30 minutes. Maybe for you it's been 2 hours, but the time I'm looking at has been 30 minutes. Right now, one child has died from Gaza, according to the statistics. One child has died. So this, we should be angry. If you're quiet about it, then nothing's going to change in the world. Yes, you don't expect everything to change like this, but the fact that the International Criminal Court has forbidden Netanyahu to enter 120 nations that are following is a big statement. It's something big. As a mujrim, as a criminal, it's the criminal court in Hague. And then you see the opposite, that the senators that we see in the US, they say, actually, you should put sanctions on the ICC. We don't accept them. For example, some of them say we should commit acts of aggression against them, threaten them. So therefore, what causes this power is anger. Is that when you're angry for oppression, when dhulm happens to any race, gender, color, any native people. I said this last week, Palestine is a compilation of all the oppression throughout the entire world. It is that, link and connection to all the natives, aborigines, whoever lived a normal, peaceful life, and then the foreigners, the imperialists, the colonists came in and took their land and resources and killed them. That is all Palestine is. And also it is the future, because it is showing us that when people are angry and people won't take oppression and dhulm, that the future is bright for us. That humanity will not stay put. They will, as I said that tradition about the Imam of the age, that there are 3 stages. People interpret that hadith about when the Imam will arise, that you have to pass the time of the wolf. You have to pass the time of the ram. You have to become the time of the mizan, the weight, the scale. When you become like a scale, mizan, just, and everyone wants to seek justice no matter what, then is the time of the faraj of the Imam. Then people are ready. So therefore, this is the second part, that anger is good. Third is innovation. When there is something that is new in religion that wasn't there before and they're adding it. Corruption, you should become angry. There are people maybe in our families and friends, they're trying to corrupt them, innovate them, cause innovation, cause bid'ah, for example. You should become angry with them. You don't have to always hang out with these people. Say, I don't want to go to your, for example, ceremonies or gatherings anymore. I don't want to participate. Or if you participate, you say something, for example. You show your anger. So these are all aspects that when you look at the lives of the Prophet, Imam Ali, Rasulullah, Imam Ali, Lady Fatima, they had ghadab. And that is good. And if this ghadab it doesn't exist, then a lot of times we won't fulfill our duties. This story, I'll end with this nice story about Rahma because I forgot, I just want to share it. One last group that I said that Sayyida Fatima showed her compassion to was those that were seeking knowledge. Those who were seeking knowledge. A person comes to Sayyida Fatima in Hadith and asks her a few questions and continues one question, two questions, three questions, and continues. She says, my mother is weak, she is troubled. I have some issues about prayer, about salat. Can you answer these? So she asks Sayyida Fatima alayhi salam the tradition. She asks one question, asks another, it continues, and Sayyida Fatima continues until the woman asks 10 questions. 10. Maybe if it was us, one or two, we say, see you later, sayonara, I gotta go, for example. Time is over. After 10, at that point, the lady felt embarrassed. She felt embarrassed and said that the number of questions she asked is too much. She says, I do not want to trouble you, O daughter of Messenger of Allah. I don't want to trouble you. There's too many questions. I'm not giving the green light, by the way. This is Sayyida Fatima. Don't give you green light to ask too many questions. Ask, inshallah, limit. Or maybe we'll see in the Q&A, inshallah, how it turned out. Then Sayyida Fatima says, go and ask whatever you need to. Do not hesitate. Then she says this. Then she gives this example for her not to be embarrassed. Do you see someone who hires himself to climb the top of a roof with a heavy load? Imagine going on a heavy load. You ever see someone take a refrigerator, something like this, a heavy load through stairs or whatever, go all the way to the top of the roof? But he has payment of him would be 100,000 dinars. 100,000 dinars, gold coin. 100,000 gold coins. Each one today is like $400 or $500. Would he be tired, for example? Would he be burdened by this? He's going to get 100,000 dinars. Say today, I'll give you $1 million, $2 million for you to take this heavy load. He says, fine, because it's $1 million. Then she says that I have hired myself for every question, just paraphrasing, receiving a reward greater than the distance between the earth and the throne of Allah. Each question you ask is a distance between the earth and the throne of Allah. You cannot measure it. Each question you get, this is how much reward there is in it. Not that 100,000 dinar. How much? From here, the earth, to the arsh. The arsh of Allah. So how could it be difficult for me to answer you? The rahmah, mercy of Sayyida Fatema alayhi salam. Then she says, I heard my father, the messenger of Allah, say, the scholars of our Shia will be resurrected and they will be honored with gifts of dignity in accordance to the vastness of their knowledge and their efforts in guiding the servants of Allah. However much knowledge they had, however much guidance they caused, they will have a higher position, such that one of them will be clothed in 1,000 garments of light. The ulama, the great scholars, those that are truly alim, those that practice upon their religion and have true knowledge, they will have thousands of garments. So therefore you see this other type of mercy and contempt of Allah is answering people's question, being very patient with people, and she's embarrassed, says, I asked 10 questions, and she says, no, it's fine, answer this. So this hopefully will be a way for us to learn to have rida, contentment, to have compassion towards the people, to our neighbors, our family, our children, inshallah, our parents. A lot of times parents speak to me and they say that we're very alone. Sometimes the children do not visit them. The grandchildren do not visit them, especially holiday times. They're sometimes very alone. They're wondering what to do. May Allah, inshallah, allow us to be very complete when it comes to our mercy, inshallah. And when it comes to our anger, to have a positive anger, inshallah, not a negative anger. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin.